Okay, so we've established that in the first video, this was all their stuff. This had nothing to do with you. Apparently there were bank account numbers, QSIP numbers on their birth certificate, which we know is on bond paper, which is legal tender. The statement of birth is on bond paper, which is legal tender. Even has a number, which is telling you there's something about tender here. Something's being tendered, right? Times 10. So anyhow, you never applied, you never received any of that stuff in the mail, and nowhere did they have your signature. So that was the security of their person. So they were the servants, they were the slaves to the debt that they created and agreed to be the bond servants. Okay, they were not servants of Christ, they now became bond servants. And it says here too, so now it says here, if you rock up and you apply for one of these, or they send you one in the mail and you accept that, you apply, look at the words, lie, you become a liar, hence applied or apply can't. And you become the person who is subject of the birth certificate. It says, who can apply for an Ontario birth certificate? And, well, if you rock up with a sin at year, you become the person who is subject of the birth certificate. And it also says here, too, deed. Something that is done or carried out. They carry things out in the mail to deliver them to you. An act or action, a written instrument by which land is conveyed. If you apply to state that you are the person who is the subject of the birth certificate, okay, you are conveying your body, stating that you are a man who has signed up and agreed to be a person, because you look in Black's Law, we'll get into all that. It states who the person is, which is a man who has agreed to be the subject of, well, get this, the charter policies, and then agree to, to the security of the person and the right not to be deprived thereof. Well, what's the security of their person? The security of their person is debt. So if you apply to become the person who is the subject, the man who signed for things, well then obviously that's that, and your body becomes land and is conveyed. And then it even, and then it says that common law, any written instrument that is signed, sealed, and delivered, and that conveys some interest in property. And they're stating here that if you rock up and you sign up for these papers and start putting your name on these on a birth certificate, that look out, man, you are thus becoming the person who is the subject of the birth certificate. Now, we've looked up subject in the past, and we know that basically all legislation derives from that. And obviously, things have been registered with these people. You even, like, whether you knew it or not, that baby was getting registered right here. That Simser surname, that surname, your name, Simser, was getting registered. And you know what it says here about registry, guys? So when you apply, you're dealing with a registry. That's why they put bank notes, chattel note numbers on these things. And then you're rocking up stating that you're the person. And the person we've covered in earlier videos. And it says registry. See probate judge under judge. Right off the bat, okay, you're registering, you're applying for a birth certificate, and it says already that you're in a probate court, they'll bait you like pros, and that you'll be under a judge. And then it says register, maritime law, the list of record of ships subject to a particular country's maritime regulations. Key words, this is Black's Law 9, record of ships, subject, okay, subject. We're going to look at that word in a bit too. And it says a ship is listed under the nationality of the flag it flies. And if you apply for an Ontario birth certificate, and you thus become a, say, Ontarian/Canadian, right? There it is. And you would become an Ontarian/Canadian or an Albertan/whatever. And that's that. And then you're flying that flag. So you're running around saying that you're a ship. A ship is listed under the nationality of the flag it flies. So are you a ship, people? So you have to wonder about that. But now, if you become the security of that person, you're now agreeing to be the government employee, right, who is going to start paying this debt. Now, why would you want to agree to be a government employee? And that's why when you look on the back of a social insurance number, obviously if you've applied for a social insurance number, SIN, well, you look on the back of it and it says employee ID number. So that tells you thus after you've applied, received one of these in the mail, it's thus become a deed and got one of these numbers, well, now you're going to pay an indefinite debt that you know nothing about. So now you're becoming the security of their person, which is their surname, not you, their surname. But why would you rock up and agree to pay the debt of another and start stating that you're going to become Canada's employee, and meanwhile you don't even really work for Canada? You know, you would have to have rocks in your head. So now we're just going to minimize this. We're going to start coming into some words, and I want to show you guys what things say. So we're going to come into here, I guess. I think I closed that. I'm going to go like that. So you guys just bear with me. I got some versions where I can kind of like keep everything in the one. I was just reading from the Black's Law just to... So effectively here, right, on that they're dealing with we're going to look at some words here. And the first word we're going to come to is apply. We've dealt with registry, so you're stating that you're a ship, right? You're stating that you're a ship. And we're going to look at the word apply here, and there it is. Hopefully you guys can see it. Here it is where the cursor is. And keywords here really is that the irony of this is it starts off simple words. It says, who can apply? Disregard the rest of the sentence. So we're going to look up the word apply. And clearly it states here, it says, to make a formal request or petition, usually in writing, to a court, officer, board, or company for the granting of some favor. So they're looking for indulgences. That's never good. Or of some rule or order. There's some, so if you rock up and you apply with a signature, sin at you're at sin, and agree to be a surname, hence Simser, well, then obviously that makes you an applicant. You can't lie then, because now you're in the hands of some rule or order which is within their power or discretion. For example, to apply for an injunction, for a pardon, for a policy. So you're always begging. Then it says, here's keywords. Now you're getting into it. To use or employ for a particular purpose. To appropriate and devote to a particular use. Object, demand, keywords, or subject matter. You know what the subject matter of all legislation is in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Is the security of their person, and that security of the person, you know what that is, guys? That's that birth certificate. So if you rock up and apply to become the applicant, you thus become the person, which is a man who has sinned for this, with a sin at who is the subject of the birth certificate. And now you become the public official who's going to pay that debt. And you don't even know how much that debt is yet. You're just rocking up, signing up for a debt, and it says everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person, and the right not to be deprived of. You're going to deprive me of a debt if I never sign for anything? That's a good deal. But anyhow, so we're going to keep going here. So now, and legal rights. And you have no rights when it comes from men. You either have grace from God or that's that, right? So we've established that's not good for apply, right? You know, and to, you know, devote to a particular use, object, demand, and subject matter. Thus to apply payments to the reduction of interest. Oh my God, you're already in debt, man. You're a servant. You're a slave. So now we've established a certificate in the first video. We're going to establish, we're going to come down to, you know what? We're going to come down to 148, I guess. And we'll just zoom here. And there we go, guys. And 148, we're going to look up bond, because we know the birth certificate is on bond paper. That's been established, and that states that it's legal tender, and it's a banknote of Canada, and it has a pretty little red number on the back of the birth certificate, and the statement of birth. There you go. And so now it says bond. A contract by specialty to pay a certain sum of money. So you don't even know what the sum of money is for. What exactly is it? But yet you're going to pay a certain sum of money. being a deed or instrument under seal. We've established that they take those birth certificates and these statement of births and they put these under seal, and there they go, and there's another seal, yada yada yada, right? And that's that. And it says, being a deed or instrument under seal by which the maker or obliger promises. So if you rock up and apply to become the person who is the subject of the birth certificate, well, you're now into this debt, full, hook, line, and sinker, right? So that's not good. So then it goes on to say, by which the maker or the obliger, so you apply, you become the obliger, and you promise to pay, and thereto binds himself to the heirs, executors, and administrators to pay a designated sum of money to another. So if you've applied for that birth certificate, you're a sinner, you put yourself in debt, you don't even know what this debt is or what this entails and why, and already you're thus in debt, you're obliging yourself, making promises, and thereto bind yourself, his heirs, and everybody, executors and administrators, to pay a designated sum of money to another, usually with a clause to the effect that upon performance of a certain condition as to pay another and a smaller sum, the obligation shall be void. So don't you think you're going to rock out of their debt after you've applied. Oh no, they're going to pin you this. Then underneath there it says bondage. Obviously, if you've applied and you've agreed to become the person who is the subject of a birth certificate, all these words, just look them up before in the dictionary. Certain words we're not going to get into, and this is bondage, age of the bond. Right? We've established this is on bond paper, the statement of the birth certificate's on bond paper, right? All that stuff's on nice legal tender bonded note paper. And it says slavery. Involuntary personal servitude. So then we're going to look up servitude, right? Pretty simple word, but hey, let's see what it means, right? So bondage, slavery. So if you apply for that birth certificate, you're becoming a slave right now. That's exactly what it's telling you. And then it says involuntary, so voluntary personal servitude. Then it says captivity. Would you voluntarily rock up and sign up to become a slave in captivity if you knew you'd be a slave in captivity? Would you, honestly? And then it goes on, it says in Old English law, villanage, villain. So you know what they think of you if you rock up and apply for that. Then we're going to come underneath and it says bondsman. So you've applied for a birth certificate, you've applied for one of these, and now it says you're a surety. It says a surety, one who has entered into a bond as surety. The word seems to apply, key words here, look at the words, right? Who can apply? The word seems to apply, and you've rocked up with a signature. Sinner here, they know you're a sinner, they know you're going to become a bondsman. A surety, one who has entered into a bond as surety. The word seems to apply, especially to the sureties upon the bonds of officers, trustees, etc. So now you've jumped on this ship, hence the citizenship, became a Canadian, hence on the Canada government ship, registered this, that you were applying, became an applicant, because you can no longer lie, because you become the person, and agreed to be a piece of paper's name with a surname on it, a last name, which... And then become the subject of that, of all matter in court legislation, and all court matter and legislation goes down out. And it says, seems to apply, especially to the sureties upon the bonds of officers, trustees, etc. Look at the back of your social insurance number now that you're the security of their person, and you're paying for their person, paying their taxes. While bail should be reserved for the sureties on recognizance and bail bonds. So they're using that bond. They're going to be nice enough and at least release you back into another contract if the arrest is unlawful. And obviously we've established they don't deal in the law, they deal in bylaws. Huge difference. God's law has no price. And so that's bondage. And then bondsman. So you've agreed. So we've stated up here, bondage equals slavery, a surety, right? So, man, the age of the bond, you've been bound to that. They'll put handcuffs behind your back and a contract and a specialty to pay. So we've established bond. We've established, apply, bondage, bondsman, and then it's kind of funny if you come up to birth, and we're gonna go like this. And it says, the act of being born or wholly brought into separate existence. Wow, the act of being born. Well, something was born, we've established on that statement of birth. And then it says, and then it goes on to say, or wholly brought into separate existence. Well, okay. So, you know, if we look at separate here, and we're going to come down. And we're going to come here, and we're going to look at separate, and it says secular. And for all these people going to court, the first thing the judge will say, are you this person, or are you this individual? And you know, he asks if you're this individual, are you in divide you all? He's asking you if you're in divide, and he can divide you. And how do I know this? Watch this. It says individual, so separate. Individual, distinct, particular, disconnected. So they're telling you, you've rocked up, applied to be a person who is the subject of a piece of paper. A piece of paper is dead, so now you're stating that you're dead, even though you're a man who signed that contract. You're stating that you're separate. You're an individual, distinct, particular, disconnected. Generally used in law as opposed to to joint. Though the more whatever, blah blah blah. And then it goes on to say, of the latter term is okay. Sorry guys, and there it is. And it says here, though the more usual antidotes of the latter term is several, either of these words implies division. So any of these words up here, individual, distinct, particular, disconnected, right? Separate. So you're walking in and saying, yeah, you're dead and you're in divide because they can divide you. So now we're going to look at, we're going to look at servant here, and that's at about right here. So if you've rocked up, you've applied to be a subject who is the servant, right? And we're just going to go with the slave words right now because you've applied, and now you're forming, get this, a legal identity. Was there not enough of you the first time in the flesh that you had to start forming up, rocking up, and agreeing to become the person who is the subject to pay their debt? So of course you can have the security of their person, right? Everyone. Are you a one? Honestly, are you a one? Can you be? Everyone has the right to life. Well, I should hope so. Liberty, that's a Liber number, by the way. So you've been tied to a Liber number, which is the statement of birth, and this birth certificate with a legal identity being established here as tabled, put on the table. And then it says, and security of the person. Well, is that a security? You're becoming the security of their person because they're just passing the hot potato on you, and you're going to pay the debt just so you can rock up and agree to have a piece of paper so you can create a legal identity. You have to have rocks in your head. So nonetheless, we're going to come to servant here, and I think, yeah, there we go. And servant. Keywords, people, it says a servant is one who is employed. So if you look at the back, your social insurance number, if you've applied for one of those, again, you've and lied. The Bible tells you not to lie, but you've applied for one of those. Look at the back, and it says employee operating ID number or employee agent number. That tells you you're a public officer / trustee to this debt. Now it goes on to say, a servant is one who is employed to render personal services. Personal, you've agreed to be that person with a surname, right? Your name, their name, for one of these, right? And you've went around signing and agreed to pay that nice little P whatever debt that is. And with a social insurance number. So obviously you've agreed to be the man who signed up for that to be the person we've established in later videos. Then it goes on to render personal service to his employer, the government of Canada in this case. Otherwise then in the pure suit, of an independent calling, so of a dependent calling, and one who is in such service remains entirely under the control and discretion of the latter, who is called his master. So they're saying here that if you rocked up and you agreed there, the government of Ontario here, they make this look all so sweet and warm and fuzzy, they are becoming your master. They will tell this you and this baby what to do, not you. So get that out of your head. You think once you've applied to become these people and that, don't send that little baby to school there in a few years, and you'll find out don't send that kid to school for 2 weeks, you'll find out who owns that baby, and it ain't you, and that's why you're called a parent. It's because you're paying rent for the Queen's child, because that child and you have agreed to be the subject. So if you guys have never signed up for any of this stuff or received any of this mail, you're free. If you've rocked up and you've applied for this and you've agreed to become a legal identity, who is the person, the living man who is the subject, who signed with his own free will to be the subject of the birth certificate, you're a chattel. And we're going to come back up here and we're going to simplify things, and then it goes on. So yeah, basically a servant is one who is employed to render personal services to his employer and otherwise than in the pursuit of an independent calling, and who is in such service remains entirely under the control and directions of the latter, who is called his master. So the government of Canada here, oh, they're the master to several people there. Canada somewhere here, who cares? There it is. Whatever. So now that we've established that, that's servant. Wow, that's pretty crazy, man. So we're going to come down here, right? We're going to look at servitude, and it's going to be somewhere, there it is, servitude, and it says, you know what? The condition of being bound to service. You've rocked up, you've applied for this, you've created a legal identity, it's already been off ice, government is sued, I sued, they've already sued, they've already leaned those numbers in that birth certificate, and you're rocking up and you're applying to become this. So obviously you're going to pay the debt. You're thus becoming into the age of the bond, hence the bondage. You've been bound to it with their bond right here. You become a servant, and we're establishing here that servitude says the condition of being bound to service. Well, there's take the you out of bound and you got bond. The state of a person who is subjected. Oh my God, keywords here. Subject, 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 subject. Okay, you sign up, you're the subject. You are the slave and you are the security to their debt, which is the person. Okay, people? So we've established that's servitude. And now if we look at servetus here, and it says, Latin, in the civil law. Civil always means money. See, evil. It says slavery, bondage, right? The state of service, service. And then it says, defined as an institution of the conventional law of nations by which one person is subjected. Oh, what's that word? You're a subject. You're lower than dirt. You're an ant. You're a servant. And we've established two servants defend. And then it goes on to say, by which one person is subjected to the dominion of another. Slavery. Then it goes on service. Like service credit unions. Obviously you're serving them. You're just chattel notes. You're slaves. And it says here, in the civil and old English law, a slave, a bondman. Oh my God, we were up into bonds, bondage. Oh, there's a bond right there. Oh, here's a bond too. Do you guys just want to go up and apply for this stuff now? You want to become a slave? You want to become a nice little slave? Now I don't care if you're officers on the street or you're court officers, whatever. You guys are all just bonds people. You're slaves to the higher power. And I'm not even disrespecting you. I'm just giving everybody the proverbial slap in the face for what it is. You want to be a bondsman? You are an officer of that court, and you're a trustee, and you will be entrusted to pay the debt, and you don't even know how much this debt is yet, and you're serving everybody, and it says here, serve us, a slave, a bondsman. Could we keep it any simple? You know, it's funny here, we're going to come into Black's Law 9 here, and I'm going to see if I can find this fast. Yeah, oh, service. Roman law, a slave. You want to run around and say you're a human being? It says a human being who was property, proper title, right? And could be bought, sold, pledged, and testated. Wow. Yeah, if you people aren't getting the message, and I don't care who you are, you want to be a government worker, you guys can be whoever you want. You guys can hold this debt, and you guys can pay for the security of this person, which is, it states that it's legal tender on it, and it's a banknote of Canada. And if you want to agree to hold their hot potato and pay a debt when you never had to come out of the garden and pay a debt, and again, REO 1, everyone has the right to life. Oh, that's obviously nice. So a 1 gets more respect than you do, and to life, liberty, and the security of the person. So if you've applied and you've agreed, once again, people, to become the security, right? The security of the person. You apply. You thus become an applicant in their court, because you can't lie, and you've agreed to be the person who is subject. And we've established, as tabled in other videos, that if you want to be the person, well, you obviously are a man whose duties and privileges and all that stuff will be imposed upon you. And it states here that it's all about fundamental justice, and you know that everything right here in it, subject only to reasonable limits. Well, prescribed. Well, yeah, their limits are, if you've never rocked up and signed up for this shit, well, they better leave you alone, because that would be fraud. What they do, I don't care, but don't you come out to me telling me I'm Simser and I'm responsible for this debt when I've given the government, I said, listen, hey, you guys be responsible for this. Nowhere's my signature on this. See where I'm going with this, guys? Anyhow, you sign up for this, you're an outright servant, you're a slave, that's it, that's all. I don't care who you people are. You know, everybody, it's like that Bob Dylan song, man. You still got to serve somebody. So I'm going to leave it at that. Much peace, love, respect out to all. This is a wake-up call, and I suggest you people wake up, and I don't care who you work for. You might want to get in touch with God, because the way we're all going here, some people obviously, well, they're going somewhere, and it's going to probably be called hell. It ain't going to be pretty. But anyhow, peace.